Let's rewind. I want you to understand the context, because cheating rarely happens in a vacuum. It doesn't start in a hotel room or the backseat of a car. It starts in the mind. It starts in the quiet moments, when you are sitting next to your partner on the couch, watching TV, and you suddenly feel lonely. Not alone, but lonely. That's where I was with Mark. Mark was perfect on paper. He was kind, stable, and hardworking. He remembered anniversaries. He was polite to my mother. He never raised his voice. We had been together for 5 years, and we had built a comfortable life. A nice apartment, a shared Netflix account, a routine. Every Friday was takeout night. Every Sunday was laundry day. It was safe. It was predictable. And I was slowly suffocating. I know how that sounds. It sounds like a cliché excuse. I was bored, so I blew up my life. But it wasn't just boredom. It was a feeling of invisibility. Mark loved me, but I felt like he stopped seeing me. I became a fixture in his life, like a favorite lamp or a comfortable chair. He assumed I would always be there, so he stopped trying to win me. The compliments stopped. The deep conversations about our dreams turned into logistical chats about grocery lists and electricity bills. I tried to talk to him about it. I remember one night, crying in the kitchen, telling him I felt like we were roommates. He hugged me, kissed my forehead, and said, "Babe, you're just tired. We're fine. We're solid." He dismissed my pain as fatigue. And that was the first crack in the glass. Enter Julian. Julian wasn't my type. Mark was tall, broad, and clean-cut. Julian was wiry, chaotic, and an artist. We met at a work conference in Chicago. I was there representing my marketing firm. He was a freelance graphic designer. The first time we spoke, it was over terrible coffee in the hotel lobby. Chuckles. He made a joke about the dry pastries, and I laughed harder than I had in months. It didn't start as flirtation. It started as attention. That is the most dangerous drug in the world when you are starved for it. Julian asked me questions, real questions. He didn't ask, "How was your day?" expecting a one-word answer. He asked, "What is the one thing you want to do before you die?" And, "Why do you work in marketing if you love painting?" He looked me in the eye when I spoke. He listened. For the first time in years, I felt like a main character, not a supporting actor in someone else's life. We exchanged numbers for networking purposes. That was the first lie I told myself. When I got back home to Mark, the contrast was jarring. Mark asked if the flight was on time and if I was hungry. That was it. No questions about the people I met, no curiosity about my thoughts. I went to bed that night feeling a heavy stone in my chest. And then, my phone buzzed. It was Julian. "I'm looking at this skyline, but it's boring without why." Our commentary. "Hope you made it home safe." My heart hammered against my ribs. I should have shown Mark. I should have deleted it. Instead, I typed back, "Safe and sound. Chicago isn't the same without the bad coffee commentary either." That was the beginning of the slide. It's a slippery slope, and you don't realize you're falling until you hit the bottom. For the next 2 months, Julian and I texted every day. It started innocent, memes, work gripes, funny observations, but slowly the tone shifted. We started sharing secrets. I told him about my fears of settling down too young. He told me about his fractured relationship with his father. We created an emotional intimacy that I completely withheld from Mark. I was giving the best parts of myself to a stranger on a screen, leaving only the shell for the man sleeping next to me. I justified it. "We haven't touched," I told myself. "It's just talking. Everyone has friends." But deep down, I knew. I knew because I hid my phone when Mark walked into the room. I knew because I changed Julian's name in my contacts to Jessica from accounting. I knew because I smiled at my phone in a way I hadn't smiled at Mark in years. Then came the business trip to New York. I knew Julian lived in New York. I knew it when I accepted the assignment. I told myself I wouldn't see him. Or if I did, it would be for a quick coffee, strictly professional. But the moment my plane landed, I texted him. Whispers. "I'm in the city." He replied instantly. "Dinner?"
8 p.m. I know a place. I spent 2 hours getting ready in my hotel room. I put on the red dress Mark said was too flashy. I curled my hair. I put on perfume. I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself. Exhales sharply. I looked dangerous. I looked alive.
When I walked into the restaurant and saw him, the air left my lungs. He stood up and hugged me, and the electricity was undeniable. It wasn't just mental anymore, it was physical. The dinner was a blur. I don't remember what we ate. I just remember the way he looked at me. Like I was the only person in the room. Like I was a prize. After dinner we walked. It was raining lightly, that cinematic New York mist. We stopped under an awning to stay dry. He turned to me, his eyes searching mine. "You're happy, right?" he asked. "With him?" The question hung in the air. I could have lied. I could have said yes. I could have walked away. But the truth bubbled up, acidic and raw. "I don't know," I whispered. He stepped closer. "I think you do know. I think you're scared to admit that you want more." And then he kissed me. It wasn't like the movies. It wasn't romantic music and fading to black. It was
Desperate. It was messy. It was a release of months of pent-up frustration and desire. In that moment, I forgot Mark. I forgot our apartment. I forgot the life we built. All that existed was the rain, the city, and Julian's hands on my waist. We went back to his apartment.
I'm not going to describe the details of what happened next because that's not the point of this story. The point is the choice. Every step up those stairs was a choice. Every layer of clothing removed was a choice. I had 1,000 opportunities to stop, to say, "I can't do this," to call an Uber. But I didn't. I selfishly, recklessly took what I wanted. Consequences be damned. Waking up the next morning was the coldest moment of my life. The sun was streaming through unfamiliar curtains. Julian was asleep next to me, looking peaceful. But inside me, something had shattered. The excitement of the night before had evaporated, replaced by a crushing, suffocating guilt. I looked at my phone. 3 missed calls from Mark. 2 texts. "Good morning, beautiful. Hope the meeting goes well. Love you." I ran to the bathroom and threw up. The flight home was a nightmare. I felt physically ill. I felt like I had cheater branded on my forehead. I rehearsed.
Eyes in my head. I constructed a timeline. I built a fortress of deceit before I even landed. When I walked through our front door, Mark was there. He had cooked dinner. He had flowers. "Welcome home," he said, beaming. He tried to hug me, and I flinched. I couldn't help it. My skin felt wrong. He pulled back, concerned. "You okay? You look pale." Whispers. "Just something I ate." I lied. The first of many.
The weeks that followed were a special kind of hell. I thought the cheating was the worst part, but it wasn't. The worst part was the lying. It was the constant looking over my shoulder. It was the inability to look him in the eye. I became irritable. I picked fights with him over nothing, just to create distance, just to justify my own villainy. If I could make him the bad guy, maybe I wouldn't feel so terrible. I ghosted Julian. I blocked his number. I tried to bury it. I thought if I just ignored it, it would go away. I tried to be the perfect girlfriend again. I cooked. I planned dates. I was overcompensating, trying to buy back my soul. But secrets are like rot. You can paint over them, but they eat away at the structure underneath until everything collapses. It came out 3 months later, not because I confessed, but because I was sloppy. I had forgotten to delete a specific folder of photos on my cloud account, photos from New York that had synced from my
phone. Mark was looking for a picture of his passport on the iPad we shared. I was in the shower when I heard it. Gasps, a shatter, the sound of something breaking. I turned off the water, wrapped a towel around myself, and walked into the living room. Mark was standing there, the iPad on the floor, the screen cracked. Whispers. He wasn't yelling. He was shaking. He looked at me, and the look in his eyes haunts me to this day. It wasn't anger. It was devastation. It was the look of a man watching his world burn down.
"Who is he?" he asked. His voice was so quiet I almost didn't hear it. I froze. The lies died in my throat. I saw the photo on the screen, a selfie of me and Julian in bed, smiling like idiots. There was no explaining it away. "Mark, Don't," he said. He held up a hand. "Just tell me. Did you love him?" "No," I cried, tears finally spilling over. "No, it meant nothing. It was a mistake. I was stupid. It was just one night." "It wasn't just one night," he said, his voice breaking. "You've been lying to me every day for 3 months. Every time you kissed me. Every time you said you loved me. It was all a lie." He left that night. He packed a bag in 10 minutes and walked out the door. He didn't slam it. He just closed it softly, with a finality that echoed louder than a scream. The aftermath was brutal. Our friends took sides, mostly his and rightfully so. My parents were disappointed. I was alone in the apartment we had built together, surrounded by the ghosts of a happy life I had murdered with my own hands. I learned a hard lesson that year. I learned that validation from a stranger is a cheap high that crashes fast. I learned that the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. I had stopped watering my relationship with Mark, and instead of picking up the hose, I burned the whole garden down.
Parents were disappointed. I was alone in the apartment we had built together, surrounded by the ghosts of a happy life I had murdered with my own hands. I learned a hard lesson that year. I learned that validation from a stranger is a cheap high that crashes fast. I learned that the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. I had stopped watering my relationship with Mark, and instead of picking up the hose, I burned the whole garden down.
It's been 2 years now. Mark is married to someone else. I saw their photos on social media before I blocked him for my own sanity. She looks kind. She looks like she listens to him. I hope she appreciates him in the ways I didn't. As for me, I'm still single. I'm working on myself. I'm going to therapy to understand why I self-sabotaged, why I needed external validation to feel worthy. I'm learning that you cannot build a future until you fix the foundation of who you are. If you are watching this and you are thinking about cheating, if you are texting that coworker, if you are looking for a spark outside your relationship, stop. Look at what you have. If it's broken, fix it or leave with dignity. Don't be a coward. Don't do what I did. Because the moment you cross that line, you don't just lose your partner, you lose yourself. And that is a loss that takes a lifetime to grieve.